What's up?
Hey guys, how are you?
LotLaw.
Thank you, Sheridan, for the amazing intro that I can't live up to. And we got
Oh,
all the heavy hitters up here, all the nerves. All right, here we go.
oh, you're a professional. Don't you worry.
LotLaw, by the way, this is a very rare opportunity. Miss Texas Car Guy's in the chat, and y'all
Oh,
know down in the chat, very rarely can we get Mrs. TCG in here, but she is in the chat, and she's probably going to love all the detailed questions and the whys and hows. So,
well, that's exciting because normally when you hear an attorney's coming in, you just think a bunch of finger wagging and annoyance. So you'll get that too.
yeah, yeah.
Sweet. Well, give us a little bit on who you are, what you do, and I know we already have a few questions, so can't wait to get
Okay,
into it.
well, the background story, my family's been in the car business forever. My dad was a general manager at Mazda back in the day. And then my uncle has done buy here, pay here since the 70s. He actually sold his dealership to Ernie Garcia Sr. in I think it was the early 90s for Ugly Duck. And then he had a non-compete for a while, got back into it. He retired about 10 years ago. So it's always been a family thing for us. When I was in college, I got into race cars. Back then, Toyota Supras, believe it or not, were fairly cheap. I bought my first one for 19 grand. So you're actually able to work and afford something like that. I mean, today that car is probably 130,000, but how it goes. And like any 21-year-old, you want to drive the car on the street and it can't pass emissions. So what do? You go get a wholesale dealer's license, obviously. So I started off in my life of pseudo crime, threw a dealer plate on it, and off we went. So my brother was with my uncle at the time. He wanted to break off and do his own thing. Say, can I sell cars under your license? Sure. Come on and let's do this. We did that for a year and a half, just kind of doing wholesale auction to auction stuff. And I decided I'd always wanted to do law. I was an electrical engineer by undergrad, and I always wanted to do IP and patent law. So I went to law school, and that's exactly what happened. I got a job at an amazing firm, a big firm, doing all kinds of amazing work. I did the Sony PlayStation 3 Move controller, a bunch of encryption algorithms for them, worked on the Predator drone for General Atomics. So
Wow.
a bunch of really cool stuff that you can all read about. I'm not giving away any secrets. It's all in the um, USPTO. But I was just working way too many late hours. And there were nights where I was overnight at the firm. And as a 29, 30-year-old, who cares, right? I can do that. But every night I was there, a partner was there with me, somebody in their mid to late 50s, somebody with a family, somebody. And it just dawned on me, like, even though I'm with these amazing people doing this amazing work, it just gets worse. It never gets better. It just gets worse. And my brother at the time I left the part out. My brother was still doing the cars on the side and I was helping him. We were selling a lot on eBay at this point. So I said, you know what? I'm done with this. We're going back to cars. So literally, I was in San Diego. I packed up, came back to Arizona, and we went all in on the car business. That went through last year, where I decided we can get into why I got out of it, but a lot of different reasons. The main reason was I was just done with the general public. I can't stand the general public. They have got onto my last nerves. Some of you may have seen that in some of my videos. I get a little testy, and I just feel liberated to get loose in the comments because when you have a business and you have all these competing interests, you have to be this good boy and this. And I thought, at least for one time in my life, I can just be me and be a little more confrontational. So
Be
I'd
ruthless.
be ruthless, a little ruthless. Yeah. So ignore it. I'm actually not that guy, but it felt good, cathartic. Um, so looking to do my new thing, I thought, where can I bring the most value? And I thought, I've been an attorney for this long. Obviously, I've lived car dealer compliance. I've lived the guys coming into my lot to do the inspections. I've lived with litigation. I've helped other dealers through litigation. So this is something I've been really a part of for, now 20 some years. So I thought,
Wow.
who better than somebody that knows the pressures of the dealership, and as an attorney to help? Because normally when you see attorneys give advice, it's just how safe can we be? They're not considering the business. They're not considering, if you want to be completely safe, get out of the business. There's going to be pitfalls here, and we just have to know how to navigate it and how much risk we can take. So I started LotLaw. Right now, I'm doing. I've got 3 more free jacket compliance. I go through 5-year deal jackets. Go to lot.law and sign up quick. 3 more left, and then see if we can help other dealers get and stay legally compliant. That's the way too long version.
No, I think that's all. It's all good stuff for sure. And I think we need someone that understands our side of the story when it comes to what goes on in our industry. So, we're going to start off with just a very basic question. We started talking about this earlier. What's and maybe I feel like I know this answer, but what's the difference from a lawyer and an attorney?
It's funny. If you ask most lawyers or attorneys this, they probably don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I know this answer. Um, they're interchangeable. I mean, the practical answer is they're interchangeable. The technical answer is an attorney is active and they're an attorney at law. So they are legally able to practice. A lawyer is somebody that went through law school and may or may not, and is not active.
Okay.
Okay. So when I was in my car accident, I'm working with an attorney, not a lawyer.
Technically, attorneys call themselves lawyers all the time.
Okay.
So it's not a slur. They're not going to come at you. If you want to get the law professors mad, you call them lawyers. They won't like that. So.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Well, that was one of the questions that we had earlier in the chat, so we just have to get that started.
Yeah.
We already have questions in the chat. So Felicia Keys asks, what do you think is the biggest compliant issue facing dealers today?
It has to be, based on what I've been seeing in the stuff that's been coming by. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, I helped my mom buy a Lexus today. So I was in the box, I went through the whole experience. Obviously I come from the independent world, so the franchise world's a little bit different. But I had to go through that misery today. And I think it really is the preloads. I think that is by far the biggest dealer problem. Is it's not in the price, it's not shown as optional, it's forced upon the customers out of left field. And if I saw one compliant issue today, or in general, it's that the dealers are just hooked on the preloads, or the pre-installs, and they just can't get away from them. And somewhere, somehow, this is going to come up, and this is going to snap. I think a lot of dealers are looking at the FTC and they're kind of rolling their eyes. We've seen this before. We've seen similar stuff over the years. I think this time might be a little bit different because they're really focusing on the sectors as a whole. They're going after Airbnb. They're going after Ticketmaster on much the same issues. And they seem to be pretty persistent on this. And they are willing to go to the mat. Manchester City is still going in their lawsuit. So they're not looking to back off of this.
Yeah,
I think I went a little long there, but yeah, that's what I think is the biggest issue, Felicia.
It's interesting that you say that because I looked at there's 97 dealers, and I think they're just within Texas, if I'm not mistaken, that are on the FTC list. And when I read down the dealer names, these are all dealers that are addendum dealers. I know for a fact because I compete with about 15 to 20 of them. And I think the same way. I mean, and it is hard to get that thought process out of what I consider the old car guy's head. They still want to go, well, let's just put it in the pencil on the first pencil. That's the saying that we use, right? Let's just front load it in the first pencil. And I'm like, no, you cannot do. If you advertise a car, you gotta sell the car for what you advertise it for, right? And I can't tell you how many times the big game right now is, especially in the Hyundai world, right? There's not a lot of profit in Hyundais, and so there's 1,500, maybe $2,000 at the most on a Palisade, $2,000 ish, and they're going, yeah, we'll give $4,000 and $5,000 off. Well, some of that is rebate, which they don't disclose, and some of that is the addendum dollars that are fake. $8.99 for window tint when we're paying $3.99 or whatever. It's just all that stuff going on. So I'm with you on that. I agree.
Yeah, I just dealt with it today. With the Lexus, it came out of nowhere, and frankly, going back to the first pencil conversation, I should preface this with, right, this is my opinion. A lot of this stuff is still in flux, and we're going to get into how the law actually works. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say here actually is not the law. And we'll get into why that is and how that works. So I'm saying this in a general compliance kind of architecture. But if your first pencil is more than the advertised price, I think you're messed up from the start. I think if you get reported and they're looking at that, you're in trouble. And when they come back and try to audit you, they can go back 5 years and they can tack on $54,000 per hit. And then the state AG can come in too. And, I think that's what you're opening yourself to. I mean, you really need to be able to show that your entire negotiation and deal is at or below your primary price that you advertised. If you can't show that, there's some issues.
Yeah, I agree.
So hypothetically, say one of my, not mine, but my dealer's competitor goes and they change their prices for the weekend and then like jack them way low so that the manufacturer doesn't see it and then bring it way back up to what it's supposed to be by Monday. But then they have a lot of people come in, they get in trouble because they have to, they can't sell it for that price, but they're trying to get people to come in. Like, what could happen to them? Because I feel like that's a big thing that cities tend to do.
Well, but it's all hypothetical, by the
Yeah,
way.
hypothetically.
Totally hypothetical.
It's just what's happening out there.
Yeah.
Well, it gets into a larger issue right now with dynamic pricing. If you go into Best Buy, they have the e-ink price tags, and they can literally change it, up to the hour. And they're talking about people, and when you have the app and they know you're standing in front of it. We haven't gotten that far, but literally changing it depending on the person. I think all of this is going to have real compliance issues. But to your question, if you price a car at a certain amount, and that's your primary price. So, you could have MSRP, you could have doc fee, and you can have all of that, and then it adds up to your primary price. And a customer cannot walk in and buy it for that price. FTC wise, they're not going to like that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It doesn't mean that you can't be dynamic in your price, right? The markets adjust. You can adjust the market. But if somebody cannot walk in and buy it for that price. Now, the FTC has not come out with their FAQs yet. That's supposed to be out anytime. And once that comes out, we'll have a lot more to talk about, get a lot more specific, because there are some things left out, right? If somebody buys from Florida and you're in Texas, and say that they have a loan on it, and then the lender wants the lien perfected, and you have to perfect the lien, so you have to go get a Florida title clerk. It would be crazy to say that you couldn't charge an extra fee for that title clerk, right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. And or the charge for shipping. And so, in my opinion, you have to say if somebody walks in off the street to a local customer in a typical situation, can they buy it for that? Because obviously there are some extenuating circumstances that just would make no sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good answer. Thank you. George the Great One asks, can I sign for a customer if they are cool?
Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. Okay.
Only if they're cool, right? If they're not cool, you definitely can't.
All right. Sarah asks, what is the best part about your job?
Well, it's brand new. So that part's kind of fun. Honestly, it's coming on here and talking to everybody. This is really a lot of fun. Most attorneys, you have to sit at your desk and, huddle in the corner and, kind of similar to the car dealership worries with your staff getting out and saying wrong things. Law firms do not want their attorneys going out anywhere. They have very carefully curated webinars and speeches that they comb over, and they don't want somebody appearing on TikTok Live. So you'll see guys outside of firms and ladies outside of firms doing it, but generally with inside the firm. So yeah, I just really like coming on here and talking shop.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do we. KMA Auto asks, these car advocates, are they brokers or what are they?
Oh, here we go. It depends. Well, this is all a definition, right? This really depends on the definition. It depends on what they're doing. Almost every state makes the exception of coaching. So if you are saying, hey, I'm seeing these prices in the market, do with it what you will. Do this with the addendums. This is what I think you should do. And then the other person goes out and do it. In almost everywhere that is going to be allowed. The issue becomes when you start to be a representative of the dealer or the buyer or both. Then you start getting into the different laws in the different areas and what kind of regulation they want. So there's some states that are completely silent on this. There's other states that have a ton of regulation. Weirdly, California, go figure. You have to have a dealer's license to negotiate the price on behalf of the buyer. And not only that, you have a fiduciary duty on behalf of the buyer to come in. And that's the only state that I know of that forces that upon you. So that just means that you have to act with the buyer's best interest or the dealer's best interest if you're representing the dealer. And actually there, much like a real estate agent, you can represent both sides, which is always fraught with peril, but it is possible. So The answer is most of these, car negotiators, they do fall within most of the state's regulations. In Arizona, you absolutely do. Arizona has a very broad definition. Arizona's definition is so broad they had to specifically exclude Costco.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, so it's I can't remember. I can look it up exactly what the terms are, but it's basically anybody that helps with affecting the purchase of a car. I mean,
Yeah.
the end.
That's interesting because the Costco buying program is like it's at every Costco. So I've always wondered that because you could almost look at every dealership and they talk about whatever you represent the car for online. You have to, you should sell it or at least offer that price. But then you have all these Costco's and True Cars, and then there's this hidden discount. And here's if you're a member of this, you get this price. Like, I just, that's why I won't do the Costco thing or anything because I'm not gonna have another company dictate what we sell our car for. I've struggled. Like even True Car, for instance, like it's a race to the bottom. These dealers need to be somewhat profitable because they're salespeople that need to be paid, and it's got to be fair for a dealer. We talked about this. I'll bring this question up. So everyone's talking about the to consumer, right? Everything's going to go DTC, DTC. What a lot of people don't realize is like it's like McDonald's can't go DTC. Someone's got to cook the food, right? Same thing at a dealership. It's Tesla's already tried it. It can't go DTC because someone's got to deliver the car. Someone needs to show the features, the benefits. There's a cost to that, in my opinion. But really, what I want to get into, and you said we kind of talked about this originally, like I'm not quite sure the details of it, but these dealers have a dealer agreement with these manufacturers. And I just don't ever see that becoming a thing, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you know far better than I do how these dealers, get wrapped around the re-ups with all the remodels,
Yeah,
and where the manufacturers compel them to spend insane amounts of money. I know, here in my city, the Mercedes store had an incredible fight over the store they wanted to build, and ultimately they built this $13 million monstrosity. I have no idea how they're making money
yeah,
with this thing.
it's
So
scary.
given how much they put in, you're absolutely right. But it's going to depend really on those terms. So I don't think there's going to be some blanket law that's going to say, you have to honor the terms. They're going to enforce the contract. And if the
Yeah,
contract's for X number of years and then they can walk away or however they do it,
yeah,
you're really going to be bound by that contract.
I agree. Social Charity, you
That
got some
happens.
questions there. We got a ton of questions
Yes.
in that.
So,
Yes. I was worried. I'm like, there'll be nobody there and we'll just be talking to ourselves, which would be fine.
no, we have a lot. Okay, so Golf Quest asked, what do you do with retail salespeople every morning before the day starts? So that's more of a question for TCG. Asked it a few times, so I want to make sure that we get to it.
Yeah, so with our team, we talk about this all the time. Plan your work and work your plan. And so you can't show up to the dealership, you can't show up to work on hope. So you should have a plan. For the salespeople that show, let's say for instance, your shift is at 8:30 and you show up at 8:30 and then you start thinking and planning, you need to be planning way in advance. And I think it's a culture thing. It's got to start from the management team or the leadership to the team. And so, yeah, you need to definitely prep your team. Look at your morning leads. Let's talk about our follow up from the past 5 to 10 to 90 days. Like, what's your plan? So, and I think leadership at each dealership has a different plan. So, I would say come up with something that your team is prepared for. That is, it's something that you guys. It's a routine that they get into. So uh, that would be my input on that.
Sweet. All right. Hannah asks, do we need to include additional fees in the advertised lease payments other than DAS?
So you need to comply with the Reg M trigger words issues. So, I'm trying to remember exactly what they are offhand. If you say the list price, what you have to have, what's due at signing, you have to have, I have to look it up. But you definitely need to have that. And you also need to have it, depending on the media where you put it in. So if you're putting it on TV, it needs to be said and it needs to be visual, assuming that you did both. So they've been very particular on that. And it comes back to what the average consumer would see at the time. That's kind of the standard they always come back to. What does the average consumer glean from this? And it could be that the average consumer doesn't listen to things at 10 times speed when you're reading the disclaimers. So always, I think when you're thinking about these advertisements, think about how would the average consumer, think of this. And the problem is with the average consumer, I feel like we treat them like the baby consumer, that we don't really treat them like the average consumer. We treat them like an idiot, which I don't think is fair to dealers. But that is how they do it. So I would just say, come back to the ad. Obviously, the compliance parts of Reg M, and then think if a regular consumer would understand what the terms are.
One thing I want to talk about with leasing that I, for years, can't stand when it comes to manufacturer leasing commercials and advertisements is the manufacturer is generally the one promoting the lease, and they can't disclose taxes in different states. So they put this $289 a month plus TTNL plus first payment plus $2,500 delivery, all the plus plus plus. And the reason, again, the manufacturers are even like causing a lot of the problem is these people show up to the dealership saying, "Hey, I saw the 389 ad," and you're like, "Well, yeah, 389 plus taxes. Well, taxes are $2,800, and then the ad also said plus another 35. So you're 5-6 grand down." And of course, they don't trust you. They trust the commercial they saw on TV, and it's just all this back and forth. So it's funny. Like they can come down to dealers, but as a dealer, that's something I would say, man, we've got to get that fixed. Maybe let the local market, like we have Comcast here and we have Spectrum here. Like we should be able to disclose what that payment is, with the tax. But again, taxes are different everywhere.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to remember what OEM I looked at, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And, their leases weren't compliant. They had rollover issues and it wasn't stated in the car. You had to scroll down. And, the FTC has been fairly particular that we want to see, that stuff where the advertisement is made, where the primary price or the primary number is. We want to see the disclosures there and we don't want you rolling over. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I took a look at Huffines. I can never say it right. Yeah, Hyundai website. If you guys want to see how to do a really nice pricing compliant website, they do a spectacular job.
Yay!
Thanks. Yeah, I'm telling you guys. So in the chat, I will be like super transparent. I have put myself out there, and a lot of you guys have. I see a lot of your names on there, and we've all put our names out there on a limb, and I feel like there's a lot of good car people. We're willing to put our face and a name on social media, and so I want to make sure that, because here's what I know everyone's waiting for. Oh, there's Texas Car Guy. There he is. There's the car guy in him. He's doing the whatever, right? Addendums or the bad pricing. I mean, that's they're waiting to do it. And I'm going to tell you, like it's a battle I fight in my head, and the way we put everything, I want to make sure we're transparent because we're gonna do what we say.
Mm-hmm.
There's
a reason.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just to say, there's a reason they've been around for as long as they have. They do things the right way. Not too many dealerships can say that. So.
Yeah, but I just to cover it for everybody else, what I saw there, so on the new cars, they'll list the MSRP and then the dealer, the doc fee, and then you had another, something else is on there. And then any kind of rebate that it goes for everybody. And then in giant blue in a different color is the actual price, is the primary price. So that stands out. And then underneath, there are some conditional rebates that could apply.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. In the used car, I think smartly, you don't have any of the itemized stuff. You just have the price, and then it says doc fee, and what's the other one? No.
Yeah, no.
There was something else in there. But anyway, it said that everything is included in that price, which I think is perfect. I understand you want to do that in new cars because you want the MSRP, you want to set the anchor and then move it from the anchor. Whereas in used cars, of course, you don't have an anchor.
Yeah, for sure.
The more you know. That's good. So everyone that wants to have a good website, look at Huffines Hyundai McKinney. So Felicia Keys asks, can dealers get in trouble working with car advocates or brokers? Or is it broker only liable to law?
That's a good question. Felicia always coming in with them. Generally, so in terms of the kind of the FTC or the Attorney General coming in, probably not. My issues have always been, who's saying what to who or to whom.
Yeah.
whenever I'm dealing, I didn't even like dealing if the primary buyer of the car for me was a wife and the husband was there. I didn't necessarily like talking to him. I want to talk to the person that's actually going to have this car and go with the car. And so, when you have intermediaries that get in the way, communication always breaks down. So that is, to me, as more of a business and just a contract issue, dealing with the person that is actually, the one making the deal. So I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any cases on this point where dealerships have been in trouble for this. It's really not your concern. You have the proper license. They're coming in now. Things obviously can go haywire with the manufacturers if they have certain prohibitions against it or whatever they've done. Obviously check with them. But if you're just like a run-of-the-mill independent and a broker comes in and represents, I haven't seen anything that says that you can't do that. But check with your state.
There you go. Sorry, I'm responding to someone in the chat. All right, Einstein the car guy. I'm a little lost, but hopefully he can come in and answer maybe this question. But what about the fees secondary companies charge? Some call a fig. Not sure what that is.
Here's what I'm wondering. He's probably talking about in the subprime world. The banks will charge the dealership a fee to assume the loan, and that they cannot pass that on to the customer. It's illegal. So the dealership has to make the decision whether that fee makes sense or not. So a lot for people down in the chat that don't really know what they're talking about, when their people's credit are subprime, there are credit issues. There is a fee that some of the subprime lenders charge the dealership. It says to the customer, but legally you can't pass that fee on to the customer. So they might say, yeah, we're going to charge 18.99% interest and a $1,500 fee. Well, that fee comes out of what's considered the profit of the car. Yeah, KMA knows a lot of the guys that have the independence. You guys are familiar with it. And so my rule was, when I was a special finance manager, if the fee was more than the gross of the car deal, I don't take it. That's how I worked it.
Good one. That was, I'll tell you, that part, people always get mad at me because they say, well, why are you getting, telling people about this compliance stuff? Whatever's happening here is crazy and you should just ignore it. And this is one of those issues. I cannot stand this law. I think this law is awful. It should be repealed yesterday. The fact that I can't go to the buyer and say, I've got this $1,500 lender fee that they want. I can't sell this car to you unless you're willing to pay it. Are you willing to pay it? Yes or no? But I just have to swallow it, act like, do some jazz hands and tell them to leave. And so, that's where you get dealers that will do, I won't even call it pricing games, but, especially in the independent world where you will price your car quite a bit higher to have that kind of margin in there to get those subprime guys in the door so they're not seeing it. If you're doing buy here, pay here, obviously, you have everything behind a walled garden and you're checking credit first and moving them car to car, and price is really secondary. But in a mixed lot, where you're trying to do retail and subprime, it is really difficult. I think that lot's terrible, but you still have to do it.
Yeah.
That's true. So we have some questions here about social media. So obviously you're on social media. So what would you say is something that you've had to learn the most when it comes to social media? Like, what really makes you think like, oh, should I post this? Like, do you think a lot about like what you want to post? Does it have to be a certain way? Does it have to be, you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of the people in the chat, they're always thinking, what can I post? What should I post? That kind of thing.
I do. Excuse me. Definitely. And as an attorney, you've got to be, I guess I can take this a couple different ways, right? As far as just being a creator and, what you want to put, I heard Dave Chappelle, I've actually used this as my North Star, believe it or not, Dave Chappelle wisdom. He said, you think you always have to be funny. As a comedian, you always have to be funny. You don't. You just always have to be interesting. And that really resonated with me because you see dealers out there, they're making these little sketches and, trying to be funny and cute. And it's not funny. It's not cute. Really, you have to be an extraordinary talent to have those always hit. But what you do have to do is always be interesting. And there are many, many ways to be interesting. So whenever I'm doing some kind of content, I'm trying to think, is this interesting? And every sentence that I'm going through, is this interesting? Does anybody care? Is anybody going to care about the next thing? And it can be funny. It can be educational. It can be right. It can be all these things. But that's really what I'm thinking about is this interesting? Are people going to care? So if you want more of a legal, legally compliant one, but from a creator standpoint, that's what I think about.
Perfect. Hit seller TCG. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll be sure that it gets asked as long as it makes sense for this chat.
Yeah.
So not going to do something crazy. So
Well, I will say if people have general legal questions too, I mean, just sort of, I did intellectual property for many, many years. So, if somebody had a random, question there too.
okay, so we do have a question about two-party consent state.
Mm.
So all he said was I'm in Maryland, which is a two-party consent state, but he was the one who had the question. So I know that's becoming a big thing now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can actually. I've looked into this and exactly how this one works. So the general rule, most states are what they call one-party consent. And basically that means that you can record anything if one person knows about it. It's essentially knows eavesdropping, right? So you can't have two people talking on the phone and you intercept the phone call and record it because neither party at that point knows. So if one party knows, you're allowed to do it. In a two-party consent, generally that's called all parties. So all parties have to know and consent to the recording. What a lot of people don't understand is torts and criminal law take place where the injury is, not where the injury may come from or where it originates. So if you are calling into a two-state consent rule, you are subject to their jurisdiction. Sitting from your butt from home, and this is not controversial, sitting on your butt in California is not going to insulate you from calling into a two-state consent area. Now, if they call into you, of course, then it bets back to a one. But you have reached out to them, you've availed yourself of their laws, and you need to make sure they both are. Now, I know where this question's going. I won't dance around it. Most of the dealerships have statements saying this call may be recorded. The laws and the cases are pretty clear that once you say that, it's it's a free for all. The other person can then record. They don't have to tell you they're recording. You've said that you may be recording, so the other person can be recording. They've been pretty clear on that. So if you have something in your record or in your message that says that you can do that, then generally you're going to be in the clear to be recorded.
Here we go. That's a good answer because I know I get that all the time if I call a dealership and it's like, this call may be recorded. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm being recorded right now. Okay, so we have a question. KMA Auto, do you think that video cameras should be in the finance office?
This is sort of like, do you think you should have a dash cam? I don't know. It depends what you're doing.
Yeah.
My take is you would be generating so much data that I don't know that it would ever really be worth it. If what you're looking for is to have a compliant end-to-end, really that's what we have to have now. We have to have a system of compliance that goes all the way from advertising to delivery. And in my mind, that needs to be paperwork. I don't think that, they talk about, the FTC has talked a lot about verbal agreements, and to have express and implied consent, you have to verbally state these things. But, truly how you would do that is on an after-sale check sheet that the salesman signs off that I went through this and then all these were expressly informed and I gave it verbally. That's really going to be, because obviously we're not going to record all this. So I would just say that practically, I don't know you get a lot of benefit. I mean, unless you wanted to watch it and see if your guys are being, compliant in what they're doing, just as monitoring. But as far as recording and trying to ward off the feds, I don't know that that's going to be that helpful.
Yeah, not too sure about that. I don't know, because then you also have to then let the customer know that they're being recorded too, or is that still is that a one-way street, two-way street type of thing?
It depends. I always take these things actually as more of a business consideration. What does the person think at the time? Regardless if you're legally allowed to do it or not, the last thing you ever want is for a customer to, not know and then be recorded. But I can tell you, attorneys do it to their clients fairly frequently without knowledge. So in general, yeah, you can do it. But as a business, thanks, Raul. But as a business, I would personally be a little dubious of it. As an attorney, I would never record clients without their knowledge, but some do.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, hey, there's a lot of new people hopping in. I've seen some names that I'm not used to seeing before. So if you guys are just now tuning in, I'm Texas Car Guy. This is my girl, my pal, my right-hand gal, Social Sheridan. We go live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central. We always have a special guest. Today we have our friend Dennis, also known as LotLaw on TikTok. He's here sharing compliance with us, sharing with us kind of how we can improve in our ways and answering questions. So if you guys have questions down in the chat, feel free to ask. And Mrs. Texas Car Guy is getting me in trouble, by the way, because she is making, I've got to show you here, it's peach cobbler cupcakes. And I am diabetic. So I think I'm not quite sure what my life insurance plan is, but I think she's got a plan. So.
Sweet. Okay, we have another question here. Yeah, and you guys have a lot of great questions in the chat, so keep that coming. But Big B said, what's the actual rule, hypothetically, when it comes to as is being posted in the window of all vehicles, even the ones that are certified? Also, does the customer need to sign that if they buy the car?
I love getting the independent questions. So whenever I get the franchise questions, especially the lease questions, I'm like, oh gosh, the independent questions. All right. Do you need to sign it? There's a deal on there to sign it. Some do, some don't. I always had my customers sign it. I just think that's a good way, to stay in there, and to make sure that the customer knows, what they're seeing. Um, Again, if I can go on a 3-minute rant, I think the used car rule is terrible. I think that form is terrible. It just gets so much confusion. I've had so many people look at that thing and then say, "Well, you didn't tell me it had bad tires." No, it doesn't. It's saying things that could be wrong with the car. Like people don't know tires can be bad and tie rods can be bad. I mean, it's just that whole form's ridiculous. But yes, I would definitely have them sign it. And there was another part to that.
Oh, I deleted it. Also, does the customer need to sign it if they buy the car?
Yeah, there was a first part that I think I skipped over.
Then the first part is, what's the actual rule when it comes to as is being posted in the window of all vehicles, even certified?
Yeah, absolutely must be. If it's a used car, that must be posted in the window. It's that dual-sided god awful form, and it has. And actually, it even has to be there if it's not on the line. People get so paranoid that when they're in recon in the back line, that really, if you want to have it be compliant and on your lot, and it's not for sale, it needs to have something on it that says not for sale.
If I'm not mistaken, it's called the Federal Buyer's Guide. Also.
Yes, the Federal Buyer. Thank you.
That does need to be on every car, even if your plan is for them to go to the auction. If they are on your lot, they need to have a Federal Buyer's Guide. There's the as is box. There's a warranty option, and there is I know ours has 3. It's the as is, the warranty, and then the implied warranty, which there's no such thing as an implied warranty, by the way. Right?
In the great state of Arizona, there sure is.
Wow.
I am an implied warranty expert. I don't know that anybody knows more about implied warranties than this guy. So if anybody has an implied warranty question, I'm your guy.
So explain to the chat what an implied warranty is, because that's something that's built. And by the way, one of those boxes has to be checked. And the way I always disclose as is it's very simple. As soon as you take that vehicle, it goes over the curb. If it breaks into 2 pieces, you own both pieces. That means that's what as is means.
Absolutely. No, here in the lovely state of Arizona, we have all kinds of nice, wide open provisions, but that is not one of them. So we have to sell all cars with a 15-day, 500-mile implied warranty. Now, it's the implied warranty of merchantability. What does that mean? Who knows? It's very fact dependent. For instance, if you sell a car and the AC breaks within 15 days in Arizona, does that mean that the car is unmerchantable? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
If the transmission goes, yes. If the engine goes, yes. If a window regulator goes, probably not. Right? So we start getting into these really odd contortions of, what is what and how do you solve that? So I'll tell you, as a practical matter in Arizona, it really hurts the cheap cars. Like I was big into the diesel world. I've sold more 200,000 mile diesels than I ever care to see again. And, you can't sell them as is. And so, and they can have $3,000-$4,000 injector problems, right? So it pumps that up, and then you'll get these cheap trades that you can't sell because you can't sell them as is. I can't put a warranty on a 230,000 mile Xterra.
Yeah.
So I think in their infinite wisdom, it doesn't help. I know other states like Massachusetts, you can go as is after a certain mileage, I think. But Arizona has no mileage exclusion. It's madness.
Mm-hmm. Texas is over. I think we're over 125,000 miles. Correct me in the chat down there if I'm wrong, but I think it's 125,000 miles when you can put as is.
Okay, we have a lot of questions in here, so I'm gonna rip them.
Social.
So Mac Daddy asks, what does the LotLaw guy think about buy here, pay here?
What do I think about it? I mean, gosh, my family has made a lot of money from it. So I'm a big fan. I don't know, what do I think about it? It's there's people that have made that have some tough choices, and they're down and they got to get back, and done right and done compassionately, and it's great. I think the untold story of buy here, pay here is how much work they put into their cars, how much recon goes into their cars. Because those things have to make the 2 or 3 year note, because the second it breaks down, they're not paying. So most buy here, pay here lots sell really great cars. Yeah. I think that's one thing that's very undervalued about those lots.
Interesting.
For a lot of people down in the chat don't know, I owned a buy here, pay here lot for about 3 years. And so LotLaw is 100% correct. We don't want the car back. When we sell it, we want you to keep it. We want you to fulfill the loan, right? Because that's our liability out there, and we want you to be successful. So I agree with that.
There we go. All right. Hit seller TCG. With the new FTC laws, third-party vendors are not being put into consideration for mistakes. How do you handle that?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
With the new FTC laws, third-party vendors are not being put into consideration for mistakes. How do you handle that?
Third-party vendor. I mean, I guess I just don't know who that is. Who's my third party? Like the window tint guy? Like the...
I can take that one. I think they're going to Car Gurus and those, and Auto Trader. I can tell you that that's wrong. The FTC has specifically called them out. Now, if they were interested in doing something actually helpful, they would have gone after them first and really put the pressure on them. But no, they've said in multiple webinars that they are certainly looking at them, and that they need to provide adequate tools for dealers. And to the extent that they are the ones that aren't complying and it's out of the dealer's control, then they are at fault. So no, they're absolutely going at them.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is that they extract our data. They have what's called an FTP site. That's where all of the dealership's data goes. It's their FTP site's job to refresh daily. So if I go and update a price on a car, and let's say car doesn't go and extract my data, that ends up becoming really a dealer problem, but it's really a them problem. And there's this finger pointing back and forth. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the price not update on Auto Trader or Cars.com, but we've updated like last night or a couple days before when I audit those sites. So it's ugly. And yeah, they do need to be held responsible because they want to host it on their FTP site. We don't, as dealers, we don't get to. So yeah,
it is crazy that in 2026 that we're hosting things on FTP. It is just madness.
Yes.
This is 1990s stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. Bourbon Buddy Barry, it's good to see you. It's been a minute, but Triple B is asking, how do you handle when a customer just bought a used car, then wants a copy of the UCI from service?
Give it up front. Like, why should they be asking for it? I think that's something you should do up front. UCI, for people that don't know what that is, that's a used car inspection. So people buy a car and then they take it home, or they take it to their mechanic, and their mechanic. You gotta keep in mind, these mechanics, I love it. You can take it to the dealership, and the dealership says, we're good, it's a solid car. Then they take it to their mechanic, and you guys keep in mind, the mechanic's jobs is to find something wrong with cars. They want to find something to repair. Then your mechanic fixes it, and guess what you can do? Take it to another mechanic, and they're going to find something wrong with it. So, but yeah, always show the used car inspection. We get the Carfax folders and put the UCI in there. So when we go to sell the car, even prior to them buying the car, we show them, hey, here's everything that we did to the car, and take it another step forward. Here's some things we declined. We didn't think it was worth investing, but if you keep the car for a long time, the mechanic said, hey, the ball joints are recommended to repair, but they'll probably be good for another year or two. We decided not to do that, but at least in another year or two, the ball joints on this vehicle need to be repaired. So iPack, it's another great company, George.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. But you should ask for it. I'll rat out one of my former high school friends. So over here in Tucson at Kbdo GMC, um, my high school friend now has become the principal through will through inheritance, and
Ugh.
they don't have a clue what they're selling used intentionally. So they will go buy it at the show, buy it at the auction. They will drag it onto their lot and they'll slap a price on it. Right there. They won't even bathe it. And I asked him, I said, Christian, I don't understand how you're doing this. How are you putting this stuff out? You don't know what you're selling. Because that's how we get the minimum recon out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so if the squeaky wheel doesn't squeal, then you have zero recon. I said, right.
Yeah.
So it's tough for us as the good dealers because believe me, we know about the bad dealers, and these guys, really test our patience too. So definitely, get the evidence that they've gone through it too.
Awesome. Here's another question, kind of related, similarly. Peter M86, what kinds of important questions should we ask a dealer with what kind of condition a used vehicle is in?
So this is a little bit of a tough question because a lot of dealers will answer these questions in with kind of an express warranty coming back. So when you ask, like for instance, when people ask me, has this car ever been smoked in? The attorney me would say, I don't know. I haven't been with this car for 200,000 miles. I can't answer that question. Well, but does it have any smell? It doesn't to me, but I'm not a bloodhound. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It may to you. So what you may find is I will disclose what I want to disclose. And outside of that, you're probably going to find some evasive answers. And it's not because they're trying to be evasive. It's because they've been pinned on this stuff one too many times. Or rust. What's the rust? Hey, I took full pictures. Look at them. Well, I can see that there's rust, but I don't know. I'm like, there's no guide here. I took the pictures. You see what you think. If you think it's too much, it's too much. If you think it's not enough, it's not enough. So that's my take.
I agree. 100%.
Perfect. KMA Auto. Sorry, I'm drilling you with questions right now. I'm sure you're
No, it's
probably
good.
used to that.
It's
But
good,
all right, you're good? Okay.
Bob and weave.
Got
Well,
it.
that's one thing before she asked, LotLaw in chat. This is why Social Sheridan and I do this. When we started this almost a year ago, we realized how many lives we were going into and all the questions that were being asked, and the people that are in the boxes, for instance, us, they just kind of ignore the questions, and that was something that Social Sheridan and I really thought is like, look, we want to do a live for the people. So this live, although we're hosting it, it's for you guys in the chat. So please ask away. We tell our guests are going to get drilled with questions. So
Yes, thank you for asking all of them. This is amazing. All right, KMA Auto asks, every time we lower the price on a used car online, do we need to change the price on the car itself?
On the lot?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. So they've been pretty specific about this, that you really have to get through there and have, as best as you can, have it breathe the same price all over. Listening to the chairman talk about it, he was saying that when you sell it within the same day or 24 hours, it should be offline. I think some of this stuff they've just never lived it, and they don't understand that you can have cars that are still out on Craigslist and things that are floating around, stuff that's just not quite possible. I think when we see the FAQs, they're going to back the stuff out a little bit. So KMA, I would say right now, yes. If you really want to stay compliant. But I think that these guys also have to understand, how the business goes. And if you have a system in place and you're out there trying to keep your prices all consistent and something slips through or something wasn't quite done right, you're not going to end up on the website. So.
Thank you. All right. Also, real quick, what we have right here, Einstein the Car Guy. What about dealers that post call for price?
That's been an interesting one. So I think in the FAQs, when those come out someday, never, we're going to see exactly what their thinking is on that. Um, there are some states that actually require it. So if you show a car, with that, you actually have to list the price. I believe in the California Cars Act coming up here in October that you have to list a price with it. So, the call for price, if you list the MSRP and you say call for price, I don't think that's going to work. The primary price is the MSRP. That is what you've listed. That's what a reasonable customer sees. If you just say call for price and there's nothing else listed, I mean, again, I don't think you're going to show up on the website. But it's kind of a tough call. Maybe this is a good place to kind of get into, how the law works on this, and why there's so much hedging and so much uncertainty. This is a good enough time.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So you have the FTC, right, which is this big administration, and they're charged, and all administrations are charged from the from Congress with their scope and what they can do and their rulemaking body inside of it. And so they have the unfair and deceptive trade practices, right? And it's up to them to interpret what that actually means and then go out there and try to enforce it. So everything that we're talking about today is really coming out of their settlements. So they've settled with multiple dealers like the Lindsay Auto Group, where they start saying that we want to have informed and express consent. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, at LotLaw, I have a demo or an example FTC compliant buyer's order that I'm putting out there, and it's free. You just click, download it. And it's one of the first buyer orders I've seen that really goes through what I think you have to be compliant on the buyer's order with the implied express consent and how that works. So when we're going through and we're saying, you've got to have your advertising this way and it's got to operate in all these different facets, that is what is coming out of these settlements. Those settlements are not law. Those settlements are, it's law for those guys. I mean, civilly, they have to agree to that. But it shows us what the regulators are thinking. Now, you could go to court. Actually, Manchester City's, still in litigation with them. You can go to court and you can say, Your Honor, this is how we do it. This is not an unfair trade practice. We don't have to do what they're doing. We don't have to be prescriptive with them. And the judge could say, you're absolutely right. What you did here is fine. And, what they're saying is overreaching or is too much. And then that becomes the actual law. So it really depends on what side you want to be on. If you want to make sure that you're not fighting the FTC, then what we're telling you is how you should do it and try to stay compliant. But it is absolutely not the law.
There we go. You heard it here first, people. Love that. Anything, TCG? We have a few more questions in here before 9 o'clock.
Keep going. I love the chat has got so many great questions tonight, and I'm glad that we're able to kind of go over these. But if you guys are just hopping in, I'm Texas Car Guy. That's my girl, my pal, my right hand gal, Social Sheridan. Want to thank you guys for joining tonight. Every Tuesday, we are here 8 p.m. Central. We always have a special guest. Today, our friend Dennis LotLaw. You know him as LotLaw on TikTok. Attorney, right? Because we're practicing, so I learned that.
We are practicing, yes.
Attorney at law, and so he's here to advise us.
Yes.
I don't know if we answered this specifically, and I think it'd be a great time to. I know we talked about it, but as you see all these creators out here on social media, and we're all trying to do our thing. I don't feel like anyone, from what I've seen, has bad intent. There's some knuckleheads out there, but we'll let them do their thing. Are you seeing something that's common that if you're like, man, if I had a bunch of creators on a live or in one area, I would say, man, guys, watch out for this thing that you are all doing that could potentially put you in a little bit of, or your dealer in a little bit of bind. What would that one thing be?
It's car advertisements. It is advertising a particular car and having that car stay up. Again, I think it's crazy. I think people expect, I think a rational, regular consumer expects that social media posts lapse and that they, go into the dustbin. And if you scroll back 6 months and you find somebody's TikTok, that you shouldn't expect that to be on the lot. That's what I think. I would like to make that argument in court.
Yeah.
But if you want to go with the FTC and where they're at, those should come down. And so that's the one that I'm seeing the most is a lot of stale cars that are no longer for sale that are still in the feed.
So it doesn't.
Go for it, Social Sheridan.
I was gonna say, so it doesn't matter if there's are you saying just a car in general? So say someone put out a car oh, I have this, 2020 Toyota Tundra available, and
Yes.
that's it. Even if there's no offer, no anything, they can't have that on there.
Again, if you want to make sure that you're completely on the side of the regulators, it needs to come down. They've been really clear on this, which is, I just think it's odd that they've been so militant on this point, and not giving us a little more grace. But I mean, you listen to these guys in the webinars, and they are, again, I think in the FAQs we'll have more on this, and hopefully they relax this point. But right now, unambiguously, I think it's got to come down.
So someone's even saying down in the chat, even if it's on like Facebook Marketplace and it's an old car, it's no longer there, and you priced it, you need to pull that.
Oh, for sure.
Down. Yeah,
for sure. That's not even a debate, and they will go after that. I think there's really an argument on social media for the reasons we just mentioned, that that you don't have to be so careful with how they go. I mean, because obviously you could say, "Hey, I've got this Toyota Tundra, right?" And then we're talking about other stuff related to Tundras, and was it really about that car, or was it about Tundras in general, or was it about how crazy I look in the shirt, right? I mean, a bunch of different things, and so it doesn't fit neatly into that advertising category. But it depends on your risk tolerance. Like I said, if you don't want to have compliance issues, get out of the business.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, in everyone down the chat, that's something that you can't say we weren't told, right?
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of mind blowing to me.
Yep.
So, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
You got some more questions down there, Social Sheridan?
Yeah. So Russ Flips asks, in a court of law, do you think the FTC would lose in enforcing the same rules for organic versus paid social media?
Interesting. I think the paid is going to be more direct. I think they're going to have a much better case in the paid versions, because you really are putting that out there at that point as an advertisement. It depends. We can get into some of the Andrew Yaden stuff later, which I find just fascinating. How you can lose your dealer's license for swearing on TikTok. But I do think that there's a difference between the paid ads and the organic. And I think that you would ask a reasonable consumer, because you have to come back to that reasonable consumer standard. What does a reasonable consumer know? And again, my argument is a reasonable consumer should know that when the video is 6 months old, that car is probably not there. Are they going to agree with you? Is a 75-year-old judge going to agree with you? I don't know. Do you want to avoid the millions of dollars to find out? Probably.
I will say, at least for Edifice, like when we're advertising for sales, we update the inventory on our page every single night so that you're never advertising a car that's been sold. So I do know we're compliant with that.
Yeah, no, it's good. The third parties, they've got to watch out on that for sure. I have a feeling that the next round of this is going to be directed at the car gurus of the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey guys, as we're approached the 9 o'clock mark, you guys know if you want to hop up and talk to LotLaw and be part of the live. Down in the bottom, you'll see the two little people. Mine is red and blue. I think yours may be gray and white. But feel free to click on there. There's a waiting room. We've already got several people in the waiting room already that want to come up and chat. We give you guys up to 5 minutes after that. We say, hey, thanks for popping in, and we'll allow someone else to come on. So if you guys have got some questions for us or LotLaw, please feel free to hop in. Social Sheridan and I do go in order. So in about 2 more minutes, we'll bring y'all up.
So Russ asks another question to that. Is there a difference in reporting versus advertising? For example, Ford just announced X.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're looking at specific vehicles. It really has to be about a specific vehicle. If you got in there and said, hey, our dealership has this amazing thing going on with the Palisade, you're not talking about a specific Palisade. When you get in there and say, this 2026 Palisade calligraphy with blah, blah, blah interior, you need to buy it now, it's going to go fast. That's the one they're concerned about. If it's just general informational content and there's a car in it, no, they're not talking about that.
Well, and I think Russ brings up a good point. Hey, Ford just announced 2.9 on all F-150s. Those are videos that we're doing. But common sense, and I'm with Russ on this, common sense would go, yeah, look at TikTok. I made that video 7 months ago. But you know what I mean? And we all know that manufacturers generally do that for 30 days. Now, if I made one in another 30 days, I think that renews. I don't know. LotLaw, what's your...
I get a little sour on this, just, listening to how, like I said, how militant these guys were over this stuff.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I think it's fine. But, are these guys going to think it's fine?
Yeah, because I remember back in the old days when I would do newspaper ads, the newspaper would literally give us this form we'd fill out, and it would say run date tell, and it'll say, offer expires. You used to have to put the expiration date. You used to have to put for well qualified buyers. Well, what's well qualified buyers. Like there's all these legal, jargon or protection you have to put in there. So
Yeah,
Well,
and
yeah.
actually, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, Keys from Marlin has a good thing to help. Right? I added disclaimers to those posts showing the end dates. That's a good way to go about it. Is
yeah,
it perfect? I don't know, but again, the more you can put in there to tell the guys, hey, we're trying, and we're not trying to be deceptive or get that around. I think that'll carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that with Edifice, we have to put everything through compliance to make sure before we push it. So I know a whole lot about the back and forth with compliance and making sure that it's compliant. So, but it is 9:01. We have a list of people in here ready to go. So I
All
am going
right,
to try to
let's do
go
it.
in order. So we have George the Great One coming up. He is a general
Oh,
manager out at Mercedes-Benz of Midland.
George, how's it going? Now I'm nervous.
Hey, how you guys doing this evening?
Welcome in, George.
Good. Good to see
Hey,
you.
yeah, thanks for letting me up real quick. I didn't know I was going to be the first one. So I got a question for you as an attorney. So I work for a pretty big company, and of course, we always want to protect ourselves, to make sure that we're not being ill represented as a brand, not just the franchises, but our company name. So our company, we have a lot of trainings and we've rewritten our employee handbook, adding, social media policies, and we sign off that, we've seen the videos about compliance and so on and so forth. As a business, how could we limit our liabilities from just rogue salespeople, as an example? Does them signing waivers saying that, hey, yes, my company uh, gave me all of these courses for labor laws, as an example, or advertising policies. So it was funny that we were talking about the Facebook post. Like, we have to sign off that we understand that our company guidelines are that a unit that you post privately, it is your responsibility to keep sure that to make sure that that vehicle's availability is up while your ad is up, and if the vehicle sells, it's our responsibility to take it off within 24 hours. So does that limit our liabilities as a business? When you say, hey, Sheridan, you knew that this car was, gone, and you posted it privately on Facebook Marketplace. Is there a legal, out?
The only legal help that's getting you is if you then wanted to sue them in subrogation. And say, well, it wasn't really our fault, it was their fault, and so we're going to bring them into the suit now too. They're going to ask what you did to enforce the compliance, and they're going to say it's on you. These are your advertisements. The fact that they signed off, they're not independent contractors, they're not 1099s, and we've got to, and actually, I would have to look at that further, because I'm sure that even 1099s, like in real estate, if an agent goes out and says something crazy, the brokerage, I'm sure can still be on the hook for that too, even in a 1099 situation. So I would say it's really going to come down to your compliance, and I don't think it's going to buy you a lot. It buys you a claim against them if you're ever interested in pursuing that, which you probably aren't. But I think it really comes down on the compliance end. So it's good that you have the training. I think for a regulator that walks in as a practical matter, you can say, look, we have this training. Maybe our compliance wasn't quite up to snuff. Give us another shot at this, and we're going to make this right. And I think they've got other things to go do. So as a practical matter, I think it's very helpful. And I think it's great as a business to set it up like that. But as a legal matter, I think you're still going to be on the hook.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that perspective, because you're absolutely right. Will it hold up? God only knows. That's subjective. But I think as a business, we want to be shown that we are doing our best, to educate our employees, to represent the business in the best way to every consumer that shops with us. And one last thing, when we were talking about fees to be passed on to the consumers, fun facts that the fees are typically the highest at the states that have the lowest usury rates. So as an example, risk is mitigated and collected by the lenders off of the APR that they can charge a customer. So in states that can charge 25%, where in Texas it's 18% based off of the age of the unit, typically you'll see that dealer will be assessed a higher fee because the bank cannot collect higher interest to help mitigate that loss against that particular consumer. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's good info.
Interesting.
That is.
Interesting. Well, out here in Arizona, we're at 29.9, and they would still try to hit me at 2,500.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking my questions. I appreciate it.
Thanks, George. I really appreciate
Excellent live, man. I love your content. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Take
Thank
care,
you.
Thanks,
George.
George.
Hey, I'm selfishly gonna, Russ and I are generally always on the same page, but he's 100% right. These salespeople that are creating content, and we talk about this a lot. Your job is not to sell the price over the video. Your job is to build trust in your videos. Your job is to let people known before you're needed. And we talk about this all the time. So those people that are out there, price, price, price. If you have one in there, great, but God, get off price and start building value in who you are and why you want them to come buy a car from Social Sheridan. That's content you need to put out there.
Agreed. Stop being so salesy. Build that trust with them. What's up? How are you?
I'm fantastic.
All
I'm
right,
not
the
the
man, the myth.
Chicago. I'm the Chicago car guy. I wanted to start wearing glasses like TCG and, just get the look going.
I'll only believe it when you change your name. You're still Vinciers in my book.
Don't we look like twins though?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. CCG, except you have a lot more hair than I do, by the way.
it's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
So I'm not freaking out, but I'm kind of freaking out in the sense that, like, I thankfully work for a company. We have KPA. We take online training on top of online training about compliance, on top of compliance. And there's a small part of me that believes that, yeah, I'm the exception, not the rule. And like companies like mine are probably the exception, not the rule. What do I mean by that? There could be a lot that we could get in trouble, right? Like just if somebody just one day woke up and said, you know what, I got a bone to pick. Do you think walking into almost just like blind picking a dealership, there's some fines getting thrown around, right?
Yes.
So how many more lot laws do we need? Like every dealer, do we need you in store? Almost like a compliance. Do you ever watch Billions? You
No,
guys
I
know the
haven't seen
show
it.
Billions? It's a good, okay, obviously it's all about hedge funds and whatever, but he winds up getting a guy from the, federal government to be his head of compliance, right? And it's like, do you see a time when maybe if some people are made examples of and it starts, you know, that like every store needs a dentist, like on premises.
So Vin, the video that we did for LotLaw, the one that Social Sheridan and I did with all the folders and all that, those are truly compliance folders at Huffines Auto Group. We do have a compliance director for our entire auto group. He updates these books every year. We, as a general manager, have to read them, sign off on them, and we get quizzed every 6 months on compliance. And we all suck at it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't go to school to be an attorney. I didn't go to
Right.
school, right? I went to high school and I'm a car guy. I sell cars. I'm a salesman. So yeah, we do have that person in our group. His family were all in law and yeah, Costa creates down there. He's the worst. He definitely got an F. But no, we have to do that. And I've got all the books here and he comes by and audits. Where are the books? Have you read them? And we have to initial the dates that we've read them and he'll come in and look to see, did you read this quarter? I mean, he'll randomly come in. So yeah.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, do you need me in every lot? Gosh, I sure hope not. If we've gotten there, we've gotten way far afield. I think that dealerships, though, they have to start looking at compliance, as a chain, right? We're going from advertising through delivery, and each individual chain in that handoff compliant, and do we have a system behind it, right? Because, like Texas Car Guy, I mean, he's not here to be the compliance czar. There needs to be somebody with a system that has a system set up, and now he knows the system and he can implement the system. And so, is there going to be somebody like me that needs to come in and help you with a system? Probably. That is probably true. How much further that do you need to go? Well, I'm setting up deal jacket audits and going through and looking at the deal jackets. And people would say, well, I'm already compliant. I already have this thing going. And that's true. But of course, we all know what turnover is. And we all know it just takes 2 or 3 bad apples to get that flywheel spinning again. And so, I think you have to have it in place and then you have to keep reevaluating and make sure that you're staying on that compliance flywheel.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I just know, okay, can't have a copy of a driver's license just sitting on your desk, right? And a credit app just sitting out. Like, we all know this stuff, but there's just so much more. And like, I almost feel like if they really wanted to start making examples of people that they could, and we're almost like, I almost want to say we're in their good graces that they don't. We keep getting like warned, like one day somebody's gonna walk through, and we know. But I'm just, I hope it doesn't get to the point where, and maybe you'd want it to, but probably not, maybe not, but to where like we literally have to have a compliance officer just walking the showroom floor, walking the lot for every buyer's guide, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't know.
So
Yeah,
in my 29 years, I've been doing this. Only one time have I seen the DMV, the state, come through and fine us for having black tags, temporary tags, right? Sales guy goes out, goes on test drive, leaves the temp tag on the car. $10,000 fine per car. $80,000 fine we had to write for salespeople leaving temporary tags on cars. Let me tell you, after you get an $80,000 fine as an owner, first of all, it's not a fun conversation. Second of all, as a sales manager, not that I knew the sales manager that had the salespeople that left those on there, I am OCD about. Thank God that Texas, now you have permanent tags. There's none of those black printed temporary tags. But I mean, heck, just today we had to file for 2 or 3 lost temporary tags, with the magnet on because salespeople couldn't find them. So we filed for them as lost, right? We had to pay a fee to do that. Sure enough, 3 days later, new car director's walking the lot and finds them out in the back on a car. I mean, it's all the time. That's just tags. That's not even like what we're talking about, Ben, right?
Right.
The driver's license on a desk or someone's purchase agreement with their signature and driver. Like, it's crazy. It's all over.
That's all I got.
Will you always
Well,
bring my friend?
yeah, I wish I had better news for you. I can tell you as an aside, that's the only thing I ever got in trouble for was I had the inspector show up and I didn't have my plate log complete. And they walked up actually to my driver and they said, "Show me this car on your plate log." Oops.
Mm-hmm.
So
Plates are the worst. And salespeople, like, I hate saying it, they don't care. They just, I mean, every dealership I've worked at forever, like, oh yeah, I left it on there. I got so excited they wanted to buy the car, so we came inside and then they were going to buy the car, and the credit didn't get approved. All right, did you forget to take the tag off? No, yeah, you did. So
yeah, and it's awful that they're so militant about it because I mean, how many times have you left a plate when you go to the auction and then you're just driving cars home completely dirty, and sometimes you'll get pulled over and you'll show the cop and he goes, "Oh yeah, just get out of here."
yeah, very true, very very true. Well, Vin, man, we always love having you on. So
Yep,
Hope to be
Thank you.
always good.
Ciao.
be good, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, now we have KMA Auto. He's been asking a lot of great questions in the chat, so it'll be good to see him here now.
All-star team out coming in.
Right?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What's up, TCG and Social
doing?
Sheridan and Dennis?
Hey,
All right, so I'm going to tell you a story, but I'm just going to tell you the beef of the story since I only got 5 minutes. So we sold a car as is, and first of all, we sell any car that we have that has over 100,000 miles or 10 years old or older. We sell them all as is. All right. So we had this customer come and buy a van that had 200,000 miles on it, as is, and we actually have them to hold a sign that says, "I bought this vehicle as is with no dealer warranty implied."
I saw that.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Will that hold up in court?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yes,
I don't know. I don't know if the sign necessarily will, but
Well,
the signed
I
piece of
tell-
paper certainly.
Well, there's several pieces of paper that they sign off on. Well, we had a lady to take us to court, and the judge said, "You knew the car was as is. Here's a picture of you holding the sign as is. and you signed all these pieces of papers saying that you knew the car was as is and no warranty, was available. So she ruled in our favor. And that just happened this month. So yeah, if anybody out there that sells vehicles as is, I would highly recommend them to make a sign, to have a customer to hold the sign and keep it in their file. So if this does happen, you got something to fall back on.
Let me ask you real quick. Was that in small claims? Where did she file it?
No, we went to what's it, civil court or whatever it was.
And so you were represented?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So I will caution the other dealers, be very careful when you get these claims in the small claims. Because oftentimes you are dealing with a judge, or oftentimes not a judge. You'll have hearing officers that have 15 or 20 hours of legal training, and they'll throw them into these cases. And even sometimes when you get judges, they're generally criminal judges, and they don't know much about civil. There's actually a case I'm going to do a talk about on YouTube where this judge just got so many things wrong and really threw the dealership completely under the bus. And the dealership didn't know how to fight back because they were representing themselves. So be cautious when you get into small claims. But when you're out of small claims and you're in regular court and you've got representation, like happened, things can go quite well.
Yeah, and see, another thing we have them sign off on too is, the only thing we do to the as-is vehicles is we change the oil and then we detail them. And we recommend the customers to take them to their own mechanics before they sign off and, buy the car. And if they don't take it to their own mechanics, they sign another sheet of paper saying that I did not have this car checked out. So, yeah. But yeah, the as is sign, baby, that will get you every time.
There you go. Sounds like you covered all your bases, which is really good.
Yes, we did. All right, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, take care, KMA. Thanks for popping in.
Yes,
sir.
Thank you. I love that sign. I got a huge kick out of that.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. And that's true though. Like us dealers, we need to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone else in the chat wants to hop up, we got our people that were in the chat. You guys had amazing questions this live. Like seriously, I was like going crazy over here. So
yeah, that was great. I was waiting for the stumped question. So somebody needs to give me the stumped question.
Yeah.
The leasing one I wasn't great on, but
so we have one here that we didn't get to. Richie Rich asked, does Arizona have salvage title regulation?
Oh yeah. Every state has some kind of salvage regulation, and so when a vehicle is damaged over a certain amount, it must be a salvage title. And the only out on that is normally theft recovered vehicles, and that is very dependent on the state and what they allow. But in general, at that point, the insurance company can decide if they're going to leave it clean title. So it's a total loss by definition because they paid out the complete value. So you'll see on the Carfax, the theft recovers get very weird. So you'll see on the Carfax that it's a total loss, but it's not salvage because the insurance company decided to keep it a clean title. So you can get in these weird situations where they're calling it totaled, but it's clean. And so you have to do a lot of explaining to the DMV on those titles. But yes, in general, everybody has a salvage, and it's just for consumer protection when the damage is over a certain percentage. I think Arizona is 80%.
There we go. All right, we have some more people in the waiting room. So here we go. We have Pull the Trigger coming up. Here we go.
All right.
Hey everyone.
Hey, pull the trigger. Welcome in.
Awesome. Do you guys have like A cars and B cars like we have out here in Canada? Like where an A car is something that's inspected, reconditioned, ready to go, and a B car is something that has to be sold with an inspection, but you can sell it as unrepaired as long as you disclose to the customer what's wrong with it. Do you guys do that in the US?
I think that would be more of like, an as-is car versus a, warranty car or something similar to that.
Yeah, but from what I was gathering from KMA Auto, like it just sounded like it was written down as just an as-is car. There was no inspection. So like I know that when we sell an as-is car as a B car, it has to go through. We still have to provide the customer with an inspection of why it did fail. Do you guys have to do that in the US, or do you don't have to?
It's very state dependent. So there's certain states, I know back east, especially with rust, there will be mandatory inspections, but I think those are only a very few states. There'll be other states that have damage disclosures, but normally those are reaching salvage level disclosures. And the vast majority of states, Arizona's one, there are no disclosures. So we are caveat emptor, buyer beware. It is on the buyer to discover what is going on. It is on the seller to not make affirmative misrepresentations. So that's why I was saying earlier, you can't say this car's never been in a wreck. Don't certify that because you don't know. Don't make these overall claims. But if the car has been in a wreck and you know it's been in a wreck, especially a non-salvage level wreck, you have no obligation to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so like when we sell a car, we do the Carfax, and then we provide an inspection report on the car. Now, dealers can choose to do the repairs, or they can sell it with the inspection report without doing the repairs. So the without doing the repairs is like what I've been in the business. Everyone I've worked with calls it a B car. Other people might call it differently, but but you have to provide the customer with that inspection. And you're saying that you don't have to provide people with an inspection report if you guys are selling an as-is car.
Absolutely. Actually, even if you're
Okay.
selling with warranties, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Really? Because I know that we don't warranty our B cars. Those don't get warranted. Only the cars that are inspected and repaired get the ability to have the warranties
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. US is a little bit different for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm learning, the
Yeah.
different rules and regulations with what I'm going through right now with my transition phase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very much the Wild West out here. Yeah, it's on the consumer. The consumer, that's why we always talk about inspections and making sure you look at it. But as TCG said earlier, inspections have their own issues too.
yeah.
I can't tell you how many deals I've lost because the place they put it in had a bunch of maintenance in there, and the customer doesn't know how to sort maintenance out. I said, well, it said it needs spark plugs. No, it's just up on maintenance for spark plugs. I don't know if they've been done, but it's $1,000. No, right? So.
Yeah.
So, like, do you guys have to provide them with a Carfax, or you don't have to do that? So, like, we have to
California
have them
does.
sign off on the car proof. We have to have them sign off on the mechanical inspection, and then usually we go through what's been done in the mechanical inspection from the dealership point of view to ensure that like that everything that the technician noted is now compliant. You guys don't have that?
No, in the used car world, from a federal level, you really have the obligation to do an odometer disclosure. You have to say what the odometer is. If it's under 20 years, it has to be either actual miles or true mileage unknown. Almost every state, I don't know if it's a federal rule, but every state requires a salvage disclosure. And that's about it for everywhere. Beyond that, it starts becoming state by state. But as far as the mandatory disclosures, that and of course the buyer's guide.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for answering that question. Appreciate you all.
You got it,
welcome.
Chris.
Yes.
Good to see you, man.
I'll check your DM out here.
Okay. No problem. Thanks, guys.
Sweet.
Appreciate
Bye.
you. Much respect.
Thank you.
Great support. I love Pull the Trigger. Such a good guy.
Here we go. George is back. He must have another question.
Here's where George stumps me.
I don't think I'm going to stump you, but with so much emphasis lately with this, FTC deal going on for disclosure issues and so on and so forth. Let me ask you something. I mean, there's been a bigger problem than just price adjustments and disclosures and so on and so forth. Let's call it transparencies. Do you, in your experience, find a lot of implied warranty lawsuits that go on because, as you mentioned earlier, has this car ever been in an accident? I've heard of dealers, that get in trouble because the salesperson says, oh man, this car runs great. You'll never have a problem with it. And, when you start making these, loose statements, you get into, express warranties, implied warranties. And in the state of Texas, verbally is enough. Do you think that that's actually a bigger problem than price? I mean, because now you're talking about, somebody overpaid $1,000, $8,000. What happens if it's a mechanical issue, for a $10,000 engine or a $8,000 transmission.
So I guess let's take a quick step back. So in almost every state, we've adopted the Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code was a bunch of legal professors that sat in a room and figured out what the commercial sales of goods should be, especially the sales section, section 2. And almost every state's adopted it. And in the Uniform Commercial Code, you cannot make an affirmative express warranty and disclaim it. So even if you have an as-is clause, if they find that somewhere that there was an affirmative express warranty, the as-is clause won't save you. So the question becomes, can you make a verbal as-is express warranty? And then if you have a merger clause in your contract, the merger clause says that everything in the contract is contained within the four corners of the contract, no representations are made outside of this agreement. Almost everybody has that. What happens to the express warranty? And the general rule is that the contract at that point will hold. Because what's going to happen is if that testimony were to come in that there was an express warranty made verbally and it wasn't contradicted, then you would have a problem. But what practically happens is the salesman's then going to get up on stand and say, no, I didn't say that. So now you have a he said, she said. And as a practical matter, if you can show that he didn't say that, all the better. But that's why verbal contracts, aren't worth the paper they're printed on. Because as soon as you have somebody that comes up and contests the other side's assertion that there was a verbal point in the agreement, then it's a 50-50. And if the judge doesn't find corroborating evidence or something that puts that verbal disclosure into play, generally it's out. So as a practical matter, if you're covering yourself on the as-is, you're covering yourself with a merger clause, and you're trying, to tell your guys, don't make these affirmative misrepresentations. Now, the only thing that can come back to bite you is fraud, right? But fraud requires an affirmative knowledge or an affirmative misrepresentation that induces somebody to act. So if I know that the car was in a wreck and I say this car's never been in a wreck, that is fraud. And that will go around all of the other stuff. So it doesn't matter what you have in the contract, doesn't matter any of that. But if you say that the car hasn't been in a wreck and I don't think it's been in a wreck, that's a negligent misrepresentation. That is not fraud. And then that is going to be covered back into the contract rules. So it really depends what the intent was and what everybody knew at the time the disclosures were made.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for that clarity, man. I've always wondered about, what's truly important, and, do people really sue over, implied warranties on pre-owned vehicles? You fear it, every time a salesperson that's new goes out there, you don't know what comes out of their mouths, and it just makes you wonder. It's like, is that the customer that's going to turn around and get me?
Yeah, no,
Johnny got it.
It's one of the things actually that got me out of the business. Actually, I got sued over an implied warranty, and it was just such a garbage suit. And I sat there and defended it, and eventually I won it. And I ended up costing the other side $40,000 or $50,000 in attorney bills, which I still feel very good about to this day.
There you go.
But they were just awful, and so yes, it absolutely happens.
Awesome. Then, well, thank you again for the time and letting me back up.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks for the good questions. All right, now we have Michael. What's up?
Hey kids.
How are you?
First of all, I want to say you guys look great. You had a great time in Austin, it looked like.
Thank you. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, met a lot of great people. So
No, it looked like you had a great time. I want to bring up a couple points based on California. I came in late, so LotLaw, I'm not going to mention anything about Tommy. I don't know if anything was said or not. So I won't bring up that subject. But concerning a few things I heard, number one, on salvage vehicles in California, basically, if there's frame damage, I mean, you can have very little damage, but if there's frame, then the vehicle is salvaged on the title. Banks have clauses on their agreements with the dealers. You can't finance a salvage car. That's an automatic buyback to the dealer if that happens. Talking about the as-is stickers in California, the DMV laws for safety checks on cars are very strict. I see what you're saying about Arizona, anything goes. California, they got to be run through the shop. your brakes, your tires, everything has to be up to spec. The best thing in the car business for finance back in, it was either 85 or 86, when they first started the as-is sticker, finance warranty penetration on used cars back then probably went up to 80 to 90% because the customer had to sign it. There was no black or white. They knew the vehicle was as is. So that was a great thing for the finance department. Again, yeah, people will challenge it. Every dealership I was at, customers signed the as-is sticker. Carfaxes were given if the customer did request it. And I know a lot of dealerships would have the Carfax initialed or signed by the customer to acknowledge they did see the history. So California car dealers were running scared because everybody, as we know in Cali, is sue happy. And you go to DMV, the dealer is guilty until they prove themselves innocent. And that I saw for well over 40 years. Bait and switch, which was commonplace in the 70s, they put a stop to all that also. So, like I said in the past, fun days were in the past and they're over with, but it's a hell of a lot better now for the consumer. And I go out on Costa when he does his little thing when the Texas Car Guys feed on the live to get people to buy. That's great. It's great for the consumer, and it's a good thing for the dealership. And hopefully more dealers will start doing that. You know, they got to clean up the business. And I thank you guys for spearheading it. You're doing a great job.
You got it. Well, thanks for supporting us and being there. And, you know, it's all new to us. And I know Costa's doing a great job. Myself, we're coming up with ideas. So, but appreciate you spitting the California knowledge there, Michael.
Yeah.
Everything you spoke about is probably one of the main reasons why I left there, because California is not a fun car state. I would boldly say that. So thanks, Mike, for hopping in, man. We always appreciate you.
All right, guys. You have a good one.
All right.
Yeah, you too. Mike. Thank you for hopping up.
Bye-bye.
That is also where I went to law school, and I am a member of the California Bar also.
No, he's great. He's such a great supporter. So it's always good when he hops up and it's part of the chat. So
absolutely. Well, if anyone else wants to hop in, you got about another minute or two, feel free to hop in, but we'll be ending this here shortly. I think it's been a great live. You've shared a lot of information. I feel like the chat really brought some great questions tonight. And,
absolutely.
You know, we love it.
LotLaw gave us some great answers too. I mean, I was drilling him. So thank you. Well, you guys were drilling him, I guess, but thank you for all those great answers.
Thank you. Yeah. And then next week, I don't know how Russ can possibly compete with this, but you know, good luck. It's like Johnny Carson when you go after the Animal Act.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you just dropped it. We're having Russ on next week. So that will be awesome. Tuesday. And then after that, it's ladies' night. So that'll be fun. I was talking with some ladies over the weekend. So be on the lookout for some of those women in automotive people out there. So
yeah, we've got it. We're gonna have a great lineup for the ladies, and next month we're excited. We're not going to release the schedule yet, but we've got some great people hopping in next month. So as you guys have all asked for Russ, everyone's asked for Russ. Russ, I felt like was on for a lot, and then all of a sudden it was a minute we didn't have him. So I said, "Hey man, let's get together." So Russ will be next weekend, and then we will release the August schedule here probably in the next week or two. So make sure tomorrow, if you guys are on YouTube, make sure you watch tomorrow. We have episode number 4 of the Collide Pod. Mm-hmm. If you guys aren't familiar with the Collide Pod, that is Social Sheridan and I's podcast. And tomorrow, who's going to be released, Social Sheridan?
Billy the Car Kid. So there's a lot of talk about auto advocates and brokers down in the chat. Well, we get to hear from one right there in front of us. We asked him all the questions, got to know how he became what he is now, how he was in the auto industry for many, many years, top sales guy. So make sure you check that out. It drops tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central Time. So be on the lookout for that.
And one new thing we're going to be doing moving forward, you guys, is Social Sheridan and I have had some really good conversations about where we want our podcast to go, and we have decided to pivot. So everyone in the chat, you guys are going to be the first ones to know this. We get asked all the time, man, I missed your live because I was doing X, X, and X. Well, we will be posting our live the following Thursday.
Yes.
On YouTube. So this live will be posted. Are we going to do it next Thursday or this Thursday? What do we?
Yes, next Thursday. So it'll be
one week after.
We'll talk about that. I think it might be better just to do it right after the Thursday, but we're going to do one this upcoming Thursday. So it might be double trouble on this Thursday.
Yeah, this upcoming Thursday, you'll see Cody Carter, the one that we did last week. That'll be on this Thursday. And so we're going to figure it out. But you guys will now always be able to see these. We record all of them. LotLaw, can we do that? Can we record them?
Absolutely.
All right,
you got it.
Yeah, got consent. You didn't say not to. So, no, but yeah, we'll be posting these on our YouTube page. It'll be Where Worlds Collide, and we may be rebranding some things and having some fun. So be on the lookout for some fun stuff. So we do have one more person in the chat, and I feel like we have to bring them up.
We do. Here we go.
Yeah, we can't not bring this guy. And I was actually bummed out that it took.
I was too. I was a little like, wait.
All right.
Hey, my peoples.
What's up? How are you, Keys from Marlin?
Man, what's going on? What's going on? Just sitting there enjoying the chat and, of course, the engagement we got going on. But I did have a question for LotLaw because I was watching a video earlier this week and it was talking about deception. I know you kind of touched about it earlier. And, I guess my question is for the consumer, I guess in the automotive world, what is deception, right? And then two, like for the consumer, does the clock start at the time of purchase or at the time of discovery of deception?
It's really, when we talk about deception, we're not necessarily talking about a very well defined legal idea, right? We're talking about unfair practices, and then
Right.
it can be in a deceptive tone, and it can be in a deceptive configuration. So the lodestar of this is always, what does a regular consumer see in the situation? If you have the price up at $24,000, if you have multiple prices up, right? What is the price that a reasonable consumer would see? And if you are posting, that a big MSRP, and then you have a bunch of fees listed underneath it, and then you don't have a bigger price that says this is the real price, you're being deceptive. So it's because a reasonable customer in that situation would think that the big price is the actual price that they can get it for. As far as when do they have to see it and when do they have to get it by, there really isn't a time frame. It's not a temporal thing. It's more a matter of, would a reasonable person in that case see it? Now, that's for the FTC compliance. We can get into, if an actual person can then come back on you, and sue you for that. That's a different question. But for general FTC compliance, that's how they're going to look at it. I don't know if I quite hit that very well.
No, spot on. I think, that's pretty much where my mindset was thinking. I wasn't sure. I thought it was interesting based off the video that I had saw. And they were kind of talking about how they did go back and they sued, I guess, the dealership and had success in doing so. But it was just something that kind of, triggered my mind. I don't think it was more along the pricing, but more about products not being disclosed and things like that. So
yeah, that was that's been a couple of them. The Lindsay settlement, I think, is the one that's probably the most interesting, where 88% of their customers, their final price was more than the advertised price, and because they're just getting hit with all the ads, and they didn't disclose the ads as optional, and quite frankly, I think as a dealer, if you want to start from the base and then add up, I think you're good. But if you are starting with your fees and then you're coming in with the additional products and the customer has to negotiate it out, I think you've got a problem. If they can put them in, they can put window tint in, they can put all that stuff in, but if it's already there and they have to negotiate it out, it's I had to do that today for my mom. My mom's car today came with preloads. I said, "What are you guys doing?" Out.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're like if it's an addendum, but I think what's crazy for me is like when you talk about back end, if in the states where they don't necessarily record inside, the offices, and like you said earlier, it kind of becomes he said, she said, and I guess, just how do you regulate that? That's kind of what I was thinking about. But
You know, I
I
get I
think
get super sensitive when you like these dealerships that talk about, well, I'm a salesperson. Really, you're a salesperson because you packed window tint, door edge guards, 3M. You're not a salesperson. You're a thief. And the sales managers. That's what I'm going after. You sales managers are lazy and you're hypocritical, and you got your salespeople out there doing your dirty work. Because as a young salesperson, that's what I did. I did my sales manager's dirty work because they'd go and put the Inca Gold Honda Civic manual transmission with no air conditioning in the newspaper for $99.95 and stuff it in the back of the lot and not disclose it didn't have air conditioning. And then I'm up there doing their dirty work, right? And so I think, just like you said, Dennis, that you sell the car first. You want to be a salesperson, you want to have the title of a salesperson. You sell the car first, and then you sell the benefits of window tint, interior and exterior paint protection, right? Then sell that. I'll give you respect and call you a salesperson, but if you're not going to do that and pack it, I'm not saying you, Keys, you know that, but like I'm talking in general, like that's when I'll give you mad respect and call you a salesperson. But when you want to pack it in there, it's deceptive practice, in my opinion, because we're expecting the customer to read every line item. It's not real. They don't do it.
right,
Yeah, no, and the FTC says, now you've got to go through each one of those, get express and complied consent. They've got to visually, they have to audibly say it, they have to sign off on it, and it has to be shown as optional. So you need all of those things, to go through. And I was on a live, I was a couple of weeks ago, with some guy saying, and then we used to put lifts in there, for way too much money, and we scamming people. And I kind of look at it the other way. I think, like when you buy a new house, that the builder's taking you out when you put in a bathtub that is way too much money. But it's there. They can get it done. It rolls into my loan. I know you won. I know you beat me. It's fine. I'm fine with that. I think there is absolutely, and there is. There's no problem with that, right? And so if you sell a lift that's too expensive, so what? That's great.
Yeah.
They know it. You know it. Everybody's in. But you have to add it.
Yeah. Well, we have and I talked to our everyone in the chat and just anyone we talk to on live is like, look, we don't have addendums on our cars other than the 5, 6, 7 cars in our showroom, because we do show people, here's what window tint looks like. Here's what a pink wrapped Hyundai Sonata looks like. We put it right there up front. We put the addendum. Here's how much we're charging. And yeah, people pay for convenience. So I'm going to make money off of that. I mean, we just sold the pink wrapped Hyundai Sonata. We did put pink leather with black piping and pink wrap on the car. The lady drove up from Dallas, bought the car. She absolutely loved it. She's like, you've got to do more. I've got friends that want it. And she goes, yeah, of course I know I'm paying more for the car because I don't have to go do it. Y'all have already done it for me. And consumers know it, right? But if you don't want that pink wrap Sonata, we have them right on the lot, no addendum. You can buy it at MSRP, and they're there. And there's no games, no gimmicks. But the ones in our showroom, we want to show you that we have the ability to lift a Palisade. We've got one in our showroom right now that's lifted. And so I think that's, in my opinion, that's a smart, transparent way to do it. And as long as you disclose it up front, I think that's fair.
No, and that's it. You can have those I was calling them preloads, but pre-installs. They just have to be part of the price.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all.
It's nothing different than DoorDash. My receptionist will order a $5 Starbucks and pay $5 to get that thing shipped. I don't know about you guys. I'm the GM, but I'm going to drive 3 miles to go get my Starbucks. I don't want to pay someone $5 to get it, Jason, how you doing, man? Welcome in.
What's up, Jason?
So Keys, always bringing the heat, man. Always bringing it and the energy. Always love having you on, Keys.
man, absolutely. I just appreciate what you guys do and what this is growing into, man. I like I say all the time, I can't wait to see where we finish, baby, because the train is rolling, baby. The steam is pushing and the train is rolling.
Yeah,
So
the best is
let's
yet
keep
to
it up.
come. The best
That's
is yet
right.
to
That's
So
right.
true. Well,
So
thank
I'm
you,
gonna get out the
Keys.
way.
Always good to see you. Keep crushing
Absolutely.
Take care, Keys.
it. Well, that was an amazing live, I think. Honestly, like the questions were amazing, you guys. Thank you in the chat for asking all of those.
You know, we were asked over the weekend, it was a fun question. There, we were asked like, so what do you think like the worst live you've ever had was? Remember, like who's the most? We have not. I'm being real, right, Sheridan?
Yeah.
We have not had a bad live. I don't like. I don't feel we have. I can't think of a guest where I'm like, that person.
Yeah,
You know,
no, me either. I enjoy all of them, so you made it
Man.
out. You made it out.
Yes,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, LotLaw. And I learned a lot. I know the chat learned a lot, and it was a pleasure having you up here. So I really
Well, thank you. I really
appreciate it.
appreciate it. I so much appreciate the opportunity. You can go take a look at the website, lot.law. If you're a dealership and you want to have me take a look at your deal jackets, I've got 3 more for free. I also have some documents up there. We're making a big document section. I only have 2 right now, but you can download those. Take a look at what I think a compliant buyer's order is. I don't think anybody has that out there right now. You can take a look at it. You can roll your eyes and say, I'm not doing that. But, when you read the settlements, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And everyone in the chat, make sure you follow LotLaw. He has a lot of great content out there. Always, keeping everyone informed. So everyone, please make sure you follow him because he's only going to continue.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, LotLaw, thanks for being part of the community and thanks for being a voice for some of the people here in the chat. We know you're always around and we appreciate everything you do. And thanks for being available, because let's just be honest, chat. Whenever you want to speak to an attorney, it's always, well, we need to start the phone call now. And then the clock runs and you're paying for it. LotLaw has made himself available. And I want to thank you on behalf of the automotive community that's all down here in the chat. And even the ones that aren't here, just appreciate your time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. And, obviously I love the automotive community, right? These are my people. We're all together on this. When I'm in the legal world and the attorneys out there, and like you said, they're just ready to press that button and it drives me crazy. So, I'm glad that, I don't have to do that. One of the worst things was, you're up at 3 a.m. doing work and billing out at, back then when I was a little associate, $3.75 an hour going, I'm not getting $50 an hour. This is ridiculous. I'm really ripping people off, but I have to bill. And it's just terrible. So I'm glad I can do that now. I can come here, talk to everybody, and help push this great industry forward that has done great work for all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much again, man. We appreciate your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, Social Sheridan, another great live. You did a great job. Well, you had a lot of questions in that one, and
thank you. You guys have me working down there, but that's what I'm here for. So thank you, guys.
And I got to tell you, Social Sheridan, I don't say this enough, but I do lives on my own every now and then. And when I don't have you there, holy cow, man, the questions come. So it is nice. I appreciate all that you do. So
thank you very much. Yeah, we're in this together. So
yeah. Well, chat, we appreciate you guys again showing up. Remember, tomorrow on YouTube, check out the Collide Pod where worlds collide. We'll have Billy the Car Kid, our number 4 podcast, and so we're excited. Please go there and watch all the other ones. We've got Russ that's been in one, Russ Flips Whips. We have Dealer Plate Guy, we have Benz and Bow Ties, and now Billy the Car Kid. And so it's going to be great. And from here forward, we'll be posting all of our lives out there on YouTube, and you can go back and watch them. And I might even possibly repost the one we did with, nonetheless, the name's been dropped in our chat multiple times. I'm not going to tell you who. First letter starts with T, rest of it's on. I have the full one, so we might repost that so you guys can go back and watch it. So,
well, awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all for having the great questions. And as always, make sure you're following Texas Car Guy and myself. We post content every single day. And I'm on the vendor side. He's a general manager. So you'll just get all of the information from everywhere. So make sure you're following the both of us.
Yep. Everyone have a great evening. And don't forget, for more tips and tricks, make sure you follow me, Texas